The dragon snaps back. China raises tariffs to 125%. We're in a full-on trade war. So this is how things have gone this week. As you can see, they ramped up rather quickly. Now, China is saying that they're done raising tariffs because they basically shut out all of American commerce anyway. And that does indeed seem to be the case. Of at least the same level of concern is the fact that this trade war is quickly becoming much more political. Now, we shouldn't be surprised by this. All trade wars are political wars. All economics is politics. All politics is economics. And the old adage is trade wars turn into shooting wars. Well, we had better hope that is not the case. We don't want to get into a tangle with China. It would be bad for us. It would be bad for China. It would be bad for the globe. But the overtly anti-China rhetoric is growing in Washington. Check this out from Senator Moody from Florida.
I filed a bill yesterday to deny now student visas to Chinese students because China has just passed a law that now requires every national to gather intelligence, including Chinese students here studying, gather intelligence and report back.
This doesn't surprise us. This is classic China stuff.
How do we not pass a law that prevents student visas in that respect? I mean, in the past few years, we've had an explosion of Chinese students that were caught gathering evidence or gathering information on military bases, on college
This is
campuses.
true. We think of one incident. Actually, I think there's a couple incidents up in Michigan where some University of Michigan students went on field trips to U.S. bases to gather intel. We're sure it happens in other places too. Incidentally, the CCP operating inside the United States is not limited to these kinds of things, of course. Supposedly, there are reports that the CCP has police stations in major U.S. cities, keeping an eye on their citizens and especially on dissidents in this country, which is pretty crazy. Basically, the mask has been ripped off. All right, China's seeing us for us, and we're seeing them for them, and things are getting real. And one guy that keeps it real on China, and we don't know that we necessarily totally agree with him, and actually maybe not much at all, but we think his take is very interesting, is Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary. Check out what he has to say on China.
Given China's economic struggles on their side, and we see that they have been sort of entrenching and figuring out how they're going to handle this, what do you think they're going to do?
But why are we messing around? Just go to 400%. Get everybody on a plane. Let's meet in Geneva, wherever. Look, what are you going to do? 25% every day until you're at 400? Just go to 400. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes impossible for them to access the American market, which is 39% of all consumption in the world and 26.1% of the world's GDP. China cannot do without America, period. And the reason that Xi would care about this and be laser focused on it, he only gets to be the supreme leader in perpetuity while people are employed and eating and feeding and making sure their families are taken care of.
This is what the Chinese call the mandate of heaven.
If it's mass closures of factories, he's screwed. So he knows that too. And right now, as Stuart Varney detailed, and others know this, it's a precarious situation over in China on their currency and a lot of other issues as you measure their economy and their GDP growth. Now, look, I want to be clear about this. I have no problem with the Chinese people, and I, along with millions of other investors, want to do business in China. But I've had it with getting screwed on IP. I'm done. And I want someone to go in there and level the playing field. That's what I want.
And in some cases,
and I'm willing to take the volatility.
We think a reasonable case could be made for leveling the playing field. The truth is the Chinese do cheat. It is part of their business culture. That is just the way it is. Let's also remember that China is still a communist country. They have state capitalism, a massive crony capitalist state, but it is managed by the Chinese Communist Party. Let's not forget that. Everything that happens in China is watched over by the CCP. So we need to keep that in mind. We need to know who we're dealing with here, and we need to keep it front and center. We are anti-tariff. We are generally for free trade. But if we can get in here and, in the end, lower tariffs across the board, across the globe. And that is our hope and supposedly the goal. We are very much for it. It will be very good for the United States. But right now, things are sketchy, and we need to watch it basically tick by tick.